Are you there?
Yeah, I am just getting the recording going.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I hadn't lost you.
Yeah, no worries. I know it was uncannily quiet.
They're so quiet. I thought maybe it's on.
All right. Okay, so we'll be continuing our adventure with our seated poses today in Swastikasana. And we are starting in Shavasana today. And so, whoops, hold on. Let me get this in the right view. And pin myself today. Okay, so we'll be starting in Shavasana, then we'll move into Swastikasana as our marker pose, and we'll see how we end based on what the time is that we have and how it goes today. But possibly we'll end in Shavasana and then meditation. That's my goal. Or Swastikasana, so we can sit in meditation. So we'll see how it flows today, and we'll get in as much as we can. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So with that, if you haven't already, take a nice long deep in-breath with a soft and easy emptying. And another. And notice how your breath moves through your throat. And begin to narrow the inner throat passageway slightly without any straining or forcing, so that you can come into, oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I do want you to pay attention to your breath, but we'll do Ujjayi in a moment. So use that breath to take you to the inside, excuse me. And as you go inside, draw your awareness down to your toes, all 10 toes, both feet, outside and inside. And take the awareness from your toes to your feet and through your ankles, into and through the length of both legs, to your hips and hip joints, outside and inside. And draw your awareness to the space between your hips and hip joints, across the base of your pelvis, outside and inside. And then drawing the awareness up in and through your belly and across your whole chest, outside and inside. And taking your awareness across your collarbones, down your shoulders and arms into your hands, noticing your fingers and thumbs, hands and wrists. In and through the length of both arms, into your underarms and shoulders. Hands, arms, shoulders, outside and inside. And taking the awareness from the shoulders to the shoulder blades and the space between them. Notice the back of your ribs, waist, hips, and buttocks. And from this lower central space, down through your sacrum and tailbone. And drawing the awareness from your whole torso up through your shoulders, neck, face, and head. Noticing your face and head outside and inside. Being aware of your whole body, outside, inside, all at the same time. Or being aware of how the allowing Shavasana to have an effect on your body, your mind, and more. And then bringing your awareness to your back to your breath. And noticing your natural breathing pattern. Inhale, expansion. Exhale, softening. And notice how the breath moves through your throat. And you'll begin to move your inner throat muscles slightly together without any straining or forcing to come into your Ujjayi pranayama. And listen to the sound of your own breath as it moves in, as it moves out. The listening is the most important element in this breathing practice. Listening to the sound and letting it draw you deeper inside. Into a deeper dimension of your own being, your own existence. As you simply listen to the breath as it moves in, as it moves out. Slowing down your breath so the sound becomes quieter and more internal. Smoothing out the flow of your breath. So the sound is smooth and steady from the beginning through the middle, all the way to the end. And letting the sound of your breath have an effect on your mind as well as your body. One or two more Ujjayi breaths. And then you can let your inner throat muscles soften. And your natural, easy breathing pattern to resume. Notice where and how your breath is moving for you now. And then we'll begin moving. So you can start to wiggle your toes and feet, fingers and hands. And bring your knees up to your chest. And then roll over. And when you roll over, just pause there for a moment as I share a quote with you and that of what we're working on, essentially. So I'm repeating this actually. If you were here last Thursday class, then you heard this, and I just want to say it again. And for the new people on Tuesday, when the tailbone is tight, the mind will be unstable, full of anxiety, confused and unfocused. When you release the tailbone and carry the changes through the sacrum and waist. So that's all the lower part of the spine, right? Tailbone, sacrum, waist. The mind becomes steady, peaceful, clear, and able to focus either inward or outward. So this is what we've been working on and proving inside of our seated extravaganza, this experience we've been running now for a month and a half or so, right? This is why when we move from whatever, particular seated pose we've been doing, and we use it as the marker pose from the beginning to end, and we're testing to see how is our meditation going, right? Like how do we feel outward? How do we feel inward? And this is why it's changing. This is why the tailbone is not a vestigial part of our anatomy. Okay, it does a lot, and here to honor that and actually experience it. So with that, if you can press up with your hands and arms. And we're going to build our seated stack. So the swastikasana, in other words, auspicious pose, is an easier, it's really, I find it to be our easiest to set up. Okay. And we're looking at essentially starting as from the Sukhasana that we started this series with. Okay, except we're going to be lower. So we'll be no more than 2 blankets. And if your cat is sitting on top of your seated stack, you may need to move her or him. You like this? So by the way, it's not unusual for your animals to want to sit on your blankets because you're imbuing them with in yoga we would call it Shakti energy, okay, which is one of the balancing forces essentially. You gonna get up? She's really rooted into the seat here. Can I have an exchange with you, maybe somewhere? Come here, baby. Thank you. Now I know. All right, so you may be on 2 blankets, or you may come down on 1, or sometimes people come down on the floor, even, and you can have a wedge. But start, I think you're probably, Betsy, you're probably still gonna be on 2. I was finding that I could maybe go down on 1, like, oh, that's what it was last week. Tuesday, I was up on 2. By Thursday, I was down on 1. So, it can change, right? Especially if you've been doing a bunch of yoga in between. Hold on 1 second. I always need to have my timer on so I can track how long we're in the pose, and my phone just is going off here. Let me try this again. All right. So we're sitting here in the Sukhasana angle. And if you come down on the blankets, like I just felt myself collapse, essentially, like, and my back of my body tilted back. So I know that's not working today. I'm gonna go back up on 2. It's not unusual as you're changing, as your spine's doing some changing, to be teeter-tottering between the amount of supports that you're on also. And that's why it's great to just check in. Okay. So as you sit in this Sukhasana angle, right? And Sukhasana is when your ankles are, you're crossed at the low part of the shin. Okay. And so to come into auspicious pose, you're going to bring, well, notice this too. Sorry, before we do that. your ankles are probably supporting the low part of your shin also. Okay. Keep moving, baby. I need to see my legs. All right. So, and that's keeping my thigh bones parallel to the floor, essentially. Okay. But as I bring my feet closer, excuse me, my knees closer in, because in Swastikasana, we are looking to get the feet to come up in the crease, right, between the thigh and the calf. So I need to position my knees closer so my toes would get up in the crease, ideally, okay? So if once you've got this position, what you'll do, as you can see, I'm starting to position some rolls nearby because I know I'm going to need this in a moment. All right. If you're on the floor, you may not have any blankets need for under your knees, or if you're on one, you might not. But if you're on one, the alternative is that I showed you last week is to fold a flat and bring it in, curve it, bring it in under your knees and curve it like that. Okay. It's not straight across, it'll curve around. All right, so in the meantime, I'm up on 2 today, so I'm starting to support my knees already. All right, so then you're gonna reach down and pick up your top foot and bring the toes into the crease of your knee, of your knee, behind your knee, okay? And so that the sole of your foot is along the inside of your thigh, okay? If the heel is on your pubic bone, you really need to bring your knees together. Monks will have their heels in their pubic bone, that helps them with celibacy. So if you want to be celibate, you could try that. But in the meantime, really get your toes up in the crease. So the other foot, if you're up on 2 like me, this foot is not gonna come up here. Okay, if you're lower on the floor, you can probably reach down at this point and bring the foot up and make sure the toes of your second foot are way up in the crease behind your knee. And the sole of your foot, you can see on this foot, the sole of my foot is going along the inside of my thigh. Okay, and that we do want that seal. If you don't have that seal, just bring your knees a little closer together. Make sure that your foot does not rest on the blanket stack. So if you need to move forward a little bit so my feet are not resting on the blanket, then please also do that. And if at this point you're holding your head forward, I'm going to have you slide the sides of your neck back. Ideally, your ears would be over your shoulders if your neck moves that way. And so your head's over your torso and your torso's over your pelvis. And your sit bones are into your seat, thighs parallel to the floor. And you can take, we're gonna do a short meditation here. So I'm gonna give you about 2 minutes of quiet so that you can be with yourself. If you notice your mind goes away somewhere else, that's okay. Just come back and notice yourself. Use the power of your own presence to experience what the pose is presenting for you, what your body is presenting for you. Yes, you're anchoring in what you're experiencing in this moment. So we can use that to see what the experiment is today, right? With our practice, what it's going to reveal for us. Okay. And even since this is the second week, you know, maybe it's changing for you. Betsy, is there a difference from last week to this week?
Yes, absolutely. I knew what I was expected to do. And I think that changed a lot about my outlook and, I don't know, acceptance of what the pose might be feeling like or what should it feel. Also, I think last week I started on much higher stack and it just didn't work well for some. I mean, I don't know why. I started on like 3 or 4.
That was my, I apologize for that. I was thinking we could go up to 3 and I reviewed again and I saw I missed that. You did end up on 2. What are you on to this week?
Yeah, so I started with 2 this week, and of course, it's just a lot easier from the beginning. But I also know what I'm doing theoretically now, so I'm sure that has a lot. I'm not tensed up, you know. Like what is this I'm supposed to be doing? Like what is it going to hurt? Is it that kind of thing?
See how much the brain and what we think affects our pose, doesn't it? Because we have done this before. It's been many years though, I think. So when we actually like don't think we know something about a pose, right, that we're going into, it can create almost a fear response, right? And then that
Yeah, and I'm very much like that. What's it called, fight or flight? I'm very much I'm a very cautious person, so it's kind of like, what am I supposed to do? How am I going to do it? Is it going to hurt? Will I be able to do it? Completely all ridiculous.
100%. All right, so let's rearrange. Thanks for sharing. And let's rearrange now so that we can have, oh, wait, no, we're gonna do Karmasana. I forgot. So it might be the same stack, or you might be on 3 or 1. Probably you're gonna be on the same stack, but let's see. When you come up, you're going to have the low part of the shin crossed, and yep, I'm still in the place where I'm collapsing. So I'm going to come up on one more blanket. And if you are sitting up straight, easily upright is what we call it, then you might see if you go down on 1. Okay, so I'm going to come. Kim Cat is like, I don't want working to not disturb her today. It's already disturbed her once, so I'm moving my stack over so I don't hit her. All right, so once you get onto your stack, you're going to cross at the low part of the shin again, which creates a 45-degree angle, which creates also a very stable platform for you for your spine to be supported inside the pose. All right, so open up your foot in front of your thigh without moving the angle of your thigh. Same thing with the other foot. If you need to come forward a little bit too, so the knees can sink down and make the whole leg to be straight, then you can do that. So you're going to tip forward, and either you will tip forward and land on the floor. Okay, you can put your palms on the floor. You can also, maybe you'll land on your fist. If you're on your fist, you want your palms to face one another. Okay, And look, I'm finding a sweet spot. Some of you have been doing this for quite some time. So I'm like, I know the knee pad will be perfect for this. All right, so that's what I'm doing. And then you'll lean into your arms and let your neck and head hang down. And that is the name of the game. We're purposefully staying out of the deeper angles inside the pose. And what is this? This is called giving support, right? Give really beautiful, deep support by not going into the deepest angles right away. And as we stay here, that support, if there's a feeling sense to the body, sends a message to the brain, which sends a message to the muscles, right? Like, oh, we don't have to hold anymore, right? We've got support. We're not being expected to hold anymore. And so your spine is softening, opening, and releasing. And then you're going to bend your elbows and let your torso tip forward wherever it goes. Your palms come up and your fingers face toward the toes or forward. So we take all that opening that we just created and we see how much movement we can create. Although it's just moving to the place that your body will go, it's never any straining or forcing or trying to fold over or anything like that. Letting the body, allowing, right, the body to go where it goes. And then you're going to turn your hands over, keep your head down, and you'll start to tip your torso back up. Okay. And you can bring your feet side by side and against the stack. I'm going to sit back a little on my stack too. We'll want a blanket because we're going to do the ankle wrap. We'll want a blanket for our around our ankles here. But just so you see, as long as your heels can hit, sometimes you have some knee issues and your heels won't go all the way back, but get your heels back as close as you can, if not against the stack side by side. And you can have a wedge here again. And first let's just see if we're on the right stack. So let your knees go out side by side. And as you can see, my knees are higher than my hips. So I need something to raise my hips up. That means I need another blanket because we're looking to get the thigh bones parallel to the floor. Okay, if your knees dip down, you're going to pull a blanket out. So we get your hips down to your knees. But just adjust yourself on your seated stack until you have what you need to get the thigh bones parallel. And then you're going to double check that that they are parallel, and yes, mine are, but I'm also going to double check, as I'm always like, am I slumping? Am I holding? Right? Can I just sit easily upright? All right, and from there, I'm going to add in this ankle wrap. So bring the blanket around the ankle joint. And so you're going to go around behind the ankle, and then the blanket comes into the middle, and you give it a nice tug, and it'll support your ankles inside the pose. Sometimes once we support the ankles like this, it reveals another layer of tension. Okay, so in other words, something may pull again, and your thigh bones won't be parallel to the floor anymore. If that is you, You feel the holding, the slumping, or you physically see your knees up or down from your hips, then you're gonna get up, put another blanket on. Again, usually it's another blanket on. It may be for you to take a blanket off, but usually it's more. Okay, and as we sit here, again, I'm sliding. If your head is pitched forward, you may find yourself in a natural, easy, upright alignment. But if that's not you, slide the sides of your neck back to get your ears over your shoulders so the head weight's carried through the torso. Check your torso and make sure you're not going into a sway back. Sometimes if it's very little, you can just use your abs a little bit to rearrange yourself. If it's large, you still, big sway back. We've probably addressed it by now, but just in case, if you do still have a sway back or a slump, you'll still need to get another blanket. And we'll try stage 2, so you can bring your hands down to the floor with your fingers pointing forward. Some of you will be on fists still with the palms facing each other, or you can even come down on blocks, okay? But arms are straight at first as your neck and head hang down. And then inhale to prepare. On the exhale, you can bend your elbows. And then use your hands to tip yourself back up into the upright original position. And then use your hands to help your knees one at a time come back up so the soles of your feet are on the floor again. Okay, and then we will, so that was a tailbone. Well, that was a sacrum release, but before that was tailbone, we had tailbone, sacrum, and now we're going to move up to the waist. So as we were saying, when you release the tailbone, sacrum, and waist, your mind will become steady, peaceful, clear, and able to focus. I mean, just think about that. How many times these days, especially, do we have troubles focusing? Lord, right? What if when you realized you weren't focusing, you did a little yoga and then you sat down to do what you were needing to do or wanting to do? Okay, so I can attest it works quite nice. One time all I did was a lunge and I went back to work. And if you can get, as you might remember me saying, you can get the whole spine release through just a lunge. So maybe that's what happened for me. And I went back to work and boom, it was like a night and day difference. Okay, so as you're squared off on all fours, of course, you're going to lean to the right and press into your hand. We're going to bring the belly, the low left belly with your fingers. We're going to press through that belly tissue and pull the belly sideways on your thigh. And then bring your palm to your front low ribs under your chest. And you're going to press in, lift and lengthen toward your knee. Lower your hands, lower your head. Shift your hips forward. And then you'll rearrange your hands in blocks to get your wrists directly under the shoulders. And then you'll scooch your foot to get your ankle to your knee. So your arms and shin should be perpendicular to the floor. Let your head cascade down. As you lean into your hands and foot, you're even leaning into that back knee. Okay, and then press into your hands, shift your hips back. Shift over to the left, and your right foot forward and through. As you lean to your left hand, you're going to reach with your right fingers to your right, left, lower right belly. Press through the belly tissue with your fingers and pull your belly sideways on your thigh. Slide your palm underneath your chest to your front low ribs. Press in, lift and lengthen the ribs toward your knee using your hand and arm. Lower the hand. Lower your hand and shift forward. And when you've done that, you get your wrist under your shoulders, your ankle under your knee. Surrendering your neck and head down toward the floor. Lean into your bones. Trust your bones to support you. If you're in these very specific alignments are the way they are so that they can support you. So allow them, which means lean into your hands and arms. Lean into your foot. You're actually leaning in your torso, right? Is leaning to some degree at least onto your thigh. And the back of your knee, even the top of your foot. You're not holding your foot up, right? So the top of your foot is being supported by the ground. And then press into your hands and shift back. All right. So from here, we're going to come into seated side stretch. So you'll need your seated stack, the blocks, and the roll. You only need one roll, but I have two. That's why you see me lining that up. It's probably the same stack you were just on, but we're going to check as usual. Okay. So we start in Sukhasana, so cross at the low part of the shin. And again, you can have a wedge. So we're looking to see, are the thigh bones parallel to the floor? Same place as in each seated pose. Okay. Then we'll bring the right foot around to the side and the toes pointing out to the side of your stack. So make sure they're not pointed back, but out to the side of your body. All right. And from here, it's not uncommon to have a thigh that's really far back. So what we're looking to do is line up so the thigh or the knee, excuse me, of the turned around leg, when you look from this bird's eye view down, the knee should line up with the sole of the foot. So I'm going to just bend through my hip joint to bring, I don't move the foot. In other words, this is already setting that angle. Remember, we talked about a 45-degree angle before. We're essentially recreating this again, but with one leg turned out to the side. Okay, so I line up, look from bird's eye view, my knees lined up with the sole of my foot. I'm going to support my knee now If you're lower on the floor, the 2 or fewer, and your knees on the floor, it's okay. If you're 3 blankets, you want at least a fold under your knee, because it's quite a big drop when you're on 3. But after that, 3 and above, you can have a roll, or more than a roll. You can have a roll with up to 2 Zs under there. In my case, since my knee is not touching, I'm going to bring the block underneath to raise it up a little bit. And then I'm going to take my block on the right side and of my stack, my seated stack, and place my hand on it. The other arm comes out to the side from my body. And then I have 2 rotations. So I have my thumb goes up, and then my thumb goes to the back of the room. I'll bring my arm up. So I'm trying to stay in alignment with my torso, and I'm bringing my arm up towards my head. So as you come up, it comes forward a lot, then just, you can stop where it feels good for you as you come up, and stay in alignment with your torso. Okay, so it doesn't need to come to your head. Inhale, exhale, lengthen through the fingertips. I'm then going to mound my lower shoulder up and let my head rest onto it. And then I'll inhale again. On the exhale, I will bend my lower elbow. So what's important inside this pose is that the lower elbow must be bent, the upper one must be straight. So it's common to be in like a ballerina kind of a position. So if that's you, just straighten your arm and press through your fingertips. And then also please check in with your outer sit bone. So if it's floating out of your seat, you can press into your lower hand. That'll shift your hips so that the sit bone comes down. And then always feel free to adjust what's under your lower hand. So you might want to go wider or closer to your hip. You might want to raise the block or lower the block. This is a place where you can have some intuitive sense about what's right for you. Okay, and then another breath here. Excuse me. And then rotate your arm out. Excuse me. Press up from your lower hand and cross at your shin. Low part of your shin. And notice in between the sides. We'll probably have some contrast here because we've done one side and not the other. So allow yourself to notice that for a few breaths. And then bring your the left foot, excuse me, around to the side. And you'll see that my toes are pointed out from the side of the stack. They're not tucked behind me. And then I'm looking from the bird's eye view to see, does the sole of my foot and the knee line up? And they aren't. My knee is back a little bit. So I'm going to pivot through my hip to move the turned around leg, your left leg, I'm going to up. So if you were on the floor, they would be flush touching each other. Okay, from here, I'm going to bring a roll in to support my knee. And that does need to support. So this is not supporting me yet. I'm going to need to put something else under it. And for me, this block will work. And again, you might need more than a block. You might need to actually have a whole like Shavasana stack under your knee, depending on how high you're sitting in your seat. Okay, so I'm going to bring my hand to the block on the left side. I'm going to bring my arm out to the side of my shoulder. I'll have 2 rotations. So the first one, as I rotate, my thumb goes up. Okay, and then I rotate again and the thumb goes back. I'm gonna bring my arm up towards my head. Okay, and I said toward, it doesn't have to go to, but we're trying to come up as far as we can and keep the alignments we just created with our arm. So the palm should be facing out to the side, and my ideally my arm is in alignment with my torso. If not, you just won't come as far. Okay, so inhale, exhale, lengthen through your fingertips, mound your lower shoulder up, let your head rest onto it. Inhale again. On the exhale, you're going to bend your lower elbow. Your hand can face in any direction, whatever makes sense for you. Make sure your lower elbow remains bent and your upper elbow is straight. So this can happen, right? These bendy elbows start happening. So if that's you, and in fact, everyone can check, like use your tricep muscle to straighten your arm and continue to lengthen through your fingertips. And then if that outer sit bone is not connected to your seat, you can press up into your lower hand a little bit. That'll shift your hips down and that sit bone will come down. It may feel quite different on this side from the other side. Just be aware and notice what is alive for you in this moment. Okay, and then press up with your lower, let your upper arm come up and out, and then press up from your lower hand. You can move the roll from under your knee and cross at the low part of your shin again. So you're in Sukhasana, easy pose. And connect with your awareness itself. That part of you that notices you. And see what you are aware of now that you're outside the pose. There will be continuing effects, and if you pause inside of it, you can attune yourself to noticing more and more. Okay, so bring your knees, bring your feet to the floor. We're going to pop off the stack. We're going to rebuild our blanket stack into a Shavasana stack. So take your lats and refold them into heads. And so we will move into alternate leg pose next. Blocks on the other side. As well as, of course, make sure that you have a head support if you need a head support. Once you come down, I'm going to invite you to bring your knees up to your chest for a couple of breaths. Coming into reclining child, just to warm up. For alternate leg pose. And extend your left leg over the support
hold your right knee. And so if you haven't moved the leg from the reclining child position, then your knee will still be in alignment under the ear on the same side. So you can always tip your, if you're checking in, you don't want to look over at the knee. You just want to tip your chin towards your Adam's apple, and you'll look down and kind of see if it's knees gone wide or narrow. And if so, then you use your hands and arms to move your knee into position as you let your hands and arms soften and get heavy. So your shoulders, it's not uncommon to have your shoulders up to some degree. So just let your shoulders rest back. Inhale, exhale, and on the exhale, you can bend the elbows just a little bit to put a little more pressure on the top of your knee. Or it's the shin bone that's up by your knee. Be sure to use your arm muscles, not your shoulders. Like I just noticed, oh, my shoulders kicked in a little. So if you find that's happening too, you can be very conscious to soften the shoulders again and find these arm muscles. And then bring your left leg up, hold both your left and right legs. And then extend your right leg over the stuck. And you're holding just the left knee underneath, so the knee is lined up with the left ear. Like if there was a plumb line, it would be drawn straight down. Making sure your elbows are by your side. You can start to soften your shoulders. Inhale to prepare. And on the exhale, you'll bend your elbows a little bit. This will draw your knee towards your chest some. Just a slight movement, but it does put a little more pressure down the thigh bone. You might feel this down in your through your sit bone or your pelvis, maybe your tailbone, even somewhere else. Just noticing that. And then you'll soften your elbows. Bring your right leg up, hold both legs. Cross your right leg in front of your left leg and reach up for the furthest away leg. So that could mean you're holding the top of your knee of that farthest away leg, or you can come underneath and behind and hold that way. Letting your legs soften in the ankle or anywhere you might feel a pull of some sort. If you use the power of your awareness to like wash this area with your awareness, right? You can start to see that your mind can help you start to soften things that are tight, uncomfortable even. And now we're gonna take, so I crossed the right knee in front of the left, hopefully you did too. So now I'm gonna roll to the left and come into JP. So I'm in cross knee JP. My knees are approximately a 90-degree angle. And I bring my upper palm to the side of my waist or tuck my fingers into my waistband to hold my palm in that place. Let my elbow and shoulder soften behind me. My knee is somewhere between my elbow and my wrist. And if you follow your hip that's on the floor down through that same leg to that foot, that foot should be the one that's forward. So it's like your legs are in a twist. Your spine is in a twist. And then uncross your knees and legs and stack your thighs. Now we want to be knee bone to wrist bone. And have a 90-degree angle at your knee joint. Turn your head up to center and then bring your knees up to center again. And then you're going to cross your left knee in front of your right knee and hold your furthest away leg. So again, you can hold on top of that knee or behind that knee, whatever you need for your body. Let your shoulders rest back and anywhere you're feeling, sensing any discomfort or pulling, if you wash your awareness through that space and instead of running away from the pain or discomfort, if you bring your awareness to it and start to kind of coach your muscles. Soften, can you soften a little more? Can you soften? And watch what happens as you do that. And then rolling over to the right, you're holding the cross, your cross knees, you're rolling to the right. And once you land, you can let go. And your knee bone is somewhere between your wrist and your elbow. You slide your feet forward so you have a 90-degree angle approximately at your knees. And you bring your upper hand so the palm rests on the side of your waist. You can even take your palm and or take your finger, slide it in your waistband to hold the palm. And then let your elbow and shoulder soften behind you. There can be different parts of the body that you feel you're twisting from side to side. It just simply is a factor of how you're using your body as to what reveals itself inside any given pose. And then uncross your legs, stack your thighs. You're now knee bone to wrist bone. You still have a 90-degree angle at your knee joint. And then bring your back arm forward and curl up on your side for a couple of breaths. Hands up with your hands and arms again. I'm gonna do another lunge. So get your blocks. And we're gonna go lean to the left and bring the right foot forward. Lean into your opposite hand so you can free up the right side hand. Find that low right belly. Pull your belly sideways on your thigh. Then bring your palm underneath your chest again. Press in, lift and lengthen toward your knee. Lower your hand, lower your head. Shift your hips forward. And you'll get your wrist under your shoulders, and then you'll scoot your foot to get your ankle under your knee. From this place, you can lean into your bones. But let's test it a little bit more. So bend your elbows some. And you'll find that you probably weren't leaning in as much as you could. Do you feel a little more pressure in your foot and your knee now? Okay, and then straighten your arms. Keep that downward sensation that you've got in your foot and your knee, and just add your hands to it. Then press into your hands and shift back and bring your knee to the floor, and we'll do the other side. So lean to the right. And bring the left foot forward and through.
And then you can reach in with your left hand to your low left belly, and you'll press through that belly tissue and pull it sideways on your thigh. Bring your palm to your front low ribs right underneath your chest. So you'll press it, the palm into those ribs, lift and lengthen them with the palm, lower your hand, lower your head, shift your hips forward, get your hands in blocks so that your wrists are under your shoulders again, and then scoot your foot to get your ankle under your knee. You will have, at this point, if you have those alignments, your shin and your arms will be completely perpendicular to the floor. And just bring your awareness to, am I leaning? Can you even tell if you are holding back at all? Most of us can't because it's so profoundly practiced, all right? So bend the elbows a bit. You'll feel that downward kind of surrendering to your bones and to the floor underneath you. And then you'll straighten your arms. Couple more breaths here. You can press into your hands and shift your hips back. And so let's do just a few minutes of Shavasana to kind of put a bow on this practice. And then we'll have our marker pose at the end and a little meditation at the end. So come into use your stack, your Shavasana stack again. Come down and of course come down on your side and roll up. Ooh, my Shavasana is quite different. I can feel lengthened in my Shavasana from the first time. So bringing the awareness to yourself, your body, your beingness. And notice your toes and feet, ankles, the length of your legs, into your hips and hip joints. Notice across the base of your pelvis, your belly, across your whole chest. And then down your arms into your hands. Notice the fingers and thumbs, hands and wrists. Through the length of both arms, into your shoulders. Noticing your shoulder blades, the space between them, the back of your ribs, waist, hips and buttocks, sacrum and tailbone. And from the shoulders, notice your neck, face, and head. Being aware of your whole body, outside and inside, all at the same time.
Or simply notice that part of you that is doing the noticing. Your awareness itself. Follow your awareness into its source. Rest in that. And then wiggle your toes and feet. Go and stretch your fingers and hands. Bring your knees up to your chest. Roll over to your side. When the tailbone is tight, the mind will be unstable, full of anxiety, confused, and unfocused. When you release the tailbone and carry the changes through the sacrum and waist, the mind becomes steady, peaceful, clear, and able to focus, either inward or outward. So let's test that. So press on up and come back to your seated stack. So it's no more than 2 folds. And then you may have some rolls or possibly another kind of a folded flat for under your knees. Starting in Sukhasana, so the crossing at the low part of the shin, and then bringing your knees together so that the sole of your foot starts lining up with the crease of your legs. So you may need to sit forward a little bit, like I was sitting a little too far back for that. And when I do that, I want to support my knees right away so it's not so hard to move. Okay, but if you reach down between the crease, you could feel that maybe the toe would be where this crease of your knee is, behind your knee, right? So reach down for the top foot and pull that foot in. And you're gonna, if your heel is on the blanket at all, you're gonna have to go forward. Again, still, we want the foot to be kind of floating, as if it's floating, not touching the seat that you're sitting on, but just make sure the sole of the foot is lining up with the
inside of your thigh. And then if you're on probably a lower stack, one or none, you're gonna be able to reach down and pull up the other ankle inside your, and place it also in the crease, so the sole of the foot is against your inner thigh. Okay, but if it won't go, you know, you're gonna do your best. Okay, so from here, you're gonna let your knees soften out to the side. And you'll also slide the sides of your neck back, so that the back of your head is lining up with the back of your body. And allow yourself to compare. So before we go into meditation, if you wouldn't mind, you know, if you're here live or if you're on the recording, share what you notice inside the group and anchor that experience for yourself. So Betsy, what are you noticing?
Well, I can't pull the second ankle up. It really hurts. I've got a bone spur there, so that's okay. But I actually went down on the floor and
Yeah.
was very comfortable.
Oh my gosh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, from 2 down. So when you went down all the way, is your torso comfortable? Again, you're not holding up, you're not slumping.
Yeah, it was very comfortable. I really concentrated on letting my hips release. The,
Fabulous.
my sit bones were constantly like settling
Yeah.
and my whole back was lengthening.
Uh-huh.
And then it was really good to hear, have you mentioned put your slide your sides of your head back again.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it felt great. I just got up, but yeah, I couldn't do the second ankle though.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not doing it either. So I will tell you, the directions say, I have 2 different kinds of directions on my pink sheets. One of them are notes. So when you go and they're teaching from these pink sheets, but they're also giving us extra notes as we go. And sometimes they say cross something out even because they updated it and write this. So I have it in here both ways, that if you can't get, so one, you can do this, one up, one down. And we ran an experiment where, you know, people like who did this also felt things. Okay. What we
Oh yeah,
don't have is a complete seal. If the sole of this foot were here, we would have a literal seal of
I
the,
can I can see that. It still felt very good though.
yeah, but yeah, exactly. And so the other directions that are in here is either you gotta have both up or both down. But when they're down, they're still lined up like this. And this is just a modified version of swastikasana. Okay. But being that I have both, I think you can still feel things. And then you're kind of like got your mind like, this is what I'm working towards, doing this, right?
Yeah, and it does feel like there's a seal. I mean, you've got a seal on one side for sure.
Uh-huh.
So I think that feels probably more uh, of a compact unit than doing
Yeah,
the two down.
yeah, 100%. I wanted to take us back to the benefits. And so I'm going to close with the benefits and then you can continue on inside the pose and
Okay.
meditate. So just to see if even with the seal of one foot, are we sensing any of this? Okay. So it says the soles of the feet being sealed against the inner thigh provides an energy seal. So maybe we're feeling some of the circuit, right? But it might fizzle out on the other side. Okay. And this relieves all physical and mental tensions. So what if you're, in a tizzy one day or maybe triggered or whatever, right? What if you paused and sat in this pose and then resumed from there, right? Okay, it is both soothing and calming. It balances it in Pingala energy. So I was telling you the right and left sides, the channels of energy that twist up from the right and left side all the way up to your head. Okay. And that when that balances, it feels really yummy. And you're probably gonna want, like, how many people go, oh, I want to meditate now, right? It's unusual in the general populace. All right, so when it balances out here, it in Pingala energies, your mind is quieted and your awareness turns inward easily. So can you notice that as you sit here now for a few moments? I can definitely sense, like, when I meditate, I can, my mind is calmed, I'm inside with myself. And it's easier for me to stay there for sure. Okay, so that's the end of class today. I'm very grateful that you're here. And I'm glad we're taking this seated pose journey together. We'll have one more week of Swastikasana next week.